Joining us to discuss Gunnery Sergeant Jessie Jane Duff, a retired U.S. Marine, and now a senior fellow at the London Centre for Policy Research. Jessie, thanks for being with us. Jessie, the Trump administration strategy has been to put pressure on the Taliban to negotiate with the Afghan government, and as we reported, it's exploring a full withdrawal of U.S. troops in return for a ceasefire and a commitment by the Taliban to these direct talks. Is this the right strategy, in your opinion?
Well, of course it's the right strategy, but we haven't gotten many details as to what this agreement is going to contain. Right now, we are pressuring Afghanistan and the Taliban to never allow Afghanistan to become a platform for international terrorism ever again. We can never forget September 11th, 2001, and we are now looking at 18 years of war. There are children today that have been born on that time who now are eligible to join the military. We are looking at an unwinnable war in many aspects. And if we can contain it from at least becoming a platform to a threat to the international community, this is hopeful and optimistic.
Right, but Jessie, reportedly in this agreement, the Taliban will pledge to give not give jihadist terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda safe haven anymore. That's a key demand, of course, of the U.S. They say they will not be allowed in the country. Can we take the Taliban at their word here?
Of course not. They have a relationship with al-Qaeda leaders. They have not distanced themselves. They have not ousted them as being something that they are against. So it is very difficult. I would say this is a nebulous onion that will make your eyes water as you're trying to peel it back and figure out if the Taliban is trustable, if we can trust them or not.
So does it make sense for the U.S. to withdraw its troops then? If we can't necessarily trust the Taliban, but we can't have U.S. troops there indefinitely, what's the way forward here? Should the U.S. just withdraw its troops?
We really are in a position of that we can pressure Afghanistan as much as possible, so to ensure that we do not have another September 11th. But at the same time, is Taliban agreeing to these agreements so that they can launch their strikes harder once we're withdrawn? Is this what's happening? We will never know the answer to that till we make our first step and exit. We cannot commit to 18 years of something that never ends. It becomes redundant and never ending to a point where American lives, we have to ask the value of our lives being buried into their soil. So it's going to be a tough decision, yet at the same time, I think the American people have become very tired of this, and President Trump did make that one of his campaign promises.
Right, there are about 14,000 troops there in Afghanistan. What difference do you think they make in the fight against terrorism? I mean, what is their role there, and has it served to protect Americans abroad and in the U.S.?
Well, we have obviously not been attacked since, so that has obviously been an optimistic approach that we have seen. If we had seen another September 11th, if we had seen a resurgence of al-Qaeda, we would know that our efforts there were definitely futile. But we do know that we had sustained and at least maintained some level of minimalizing the threat against the Western allies along with our own nation. But at what point do we realize we're never going to defeat the ideology? Taliban is never going to go away, neither is al-Qaeda. So at best, we have to ensure that Afghanistan does not become a harboring point for terrorism. And if we can leverage that and guarantee that we will return should they attack any of our allies or ourselves, there's only so much we can do about their internal turmoil. But we can ensure that we will be back if they strike us.
So you're saying withdraw with the threat of returning should the situation necessitate that. What message do you think, though, Jessie, that it sends to the region, Afghanistan neighbors Iran on the one hand and Pakistan? So what message does it send that the U.S. withdraws?
Well, the U.S. is still in negotiations. Like I said, it's a nebulous onion. We have not seen the actual details of the negotiations that are going on. So once we see that, I think I will have a clear assessment of it. I agree with you. Iran is the greatest threat to all of the world, but I don't see Afghanistan pairing up with them. They have a different mindset when you're talking about the Taliban. But al-Qaeda was the ones that attacked us. And that is what we have to watch. And if they can agree to not enable them again, we're going to have some faith here at some point.
Jessie, thank you so much. Jessie Jane Duff, appreciate your analysis as always.